groups.
Okay.
All right. Looks like we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Jackrabbit's International Women's Day event. My name is Emily Correa, and I am joined with a lot of our lovely ladies from Jackrabbit, from the youth activities industry. And we are so excited to celebrate this day with you today and every year going forward. So we have a lot of great questions for this amazing panel of women. But before we get started, I thought it would be helpful if we just kind of went around the virtual room or the virtual Brady Bunch boxes, introduce yourselves, which organization or industry you're with, and tell us a little bit about what originally inspired you to step up and become a leader in this industry. So we will start it with Melanie Pincher.
Hello, I'm Melanie, and I am at Jackrabbit Technologies. And what inspired me, honestly, wasn't necessarily to be a leader. It was just to help people, right? To help both people inside of our organization and outside all of our clients. And it just kind of happened.
I love that. Shasta Hamilton, how about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shasta Hamilton, and I am the founder and CEO of Stage Door Dance Productions in Raleigh, North Carolina, as well as the founder and president of Girls Geared for Greatness, a nonprofit. And dance is something that I've been doing since I was 2 years old. And I think, my journey to being a leader within this industry really came about because dance was something that helped me survive a lot in my childhood, and that catharsis, that empowerment, whether you go on to pursue performing arts or not, it's something that lives within us and helps us achieve greatness in whatever we do. And that's why I think that dance as an extracurricular, as well as any extracurricular, is so important to the development of our youth.
We all agree with that. Irina Jones.
Hey, everyone. My name is Irina Jones, and I am the Director of Client Services at Jackrabbit. And what inspired me to become a leader, I'm very similar to Melanie. I'm not certain that I went looking for that, but I love championing a project, a team. Part of it's my personality. Part of it is, selfish pride to do a job well done. And with that, I love the natural cohesion that comes with leading a group of people and making something a success.
Oh, love that answer. Ashley, how about you?
Hi, so I'm Ashley Gunnlach. I am the president of British Swim Schools. We're actually a franchise organization. We've got swim schools all across the United States and Canada. I think my motivation was a little bit of being in the right place at the right time and raising my hand that I was interested. We had an interim president situation. COVID hit. We weren't ready to make any kind of a big change. And so I think that time allowed me to, have the right conversations with the right people. And, it's a brand, and teaching kids how to swim is something I think anybody can get behind and see the importance behind it. And so yeah. I think the passion and then the drive to work with the teams here worked in my favor at the time.
I like that. Right place, right time. Works out. My box has moved a little bit, so I'm going to jump back up. Leanne, how about you?
Hi, I'm Leanne Canady. I'm the founder and artistic director of Forsyth Academy of Performing Arts. So we're sort of a musical theater, acting, improv, little bit of dance, performing arts facility just north of Atlanta. And I think what inspired me, or what sort of got me into this, was, like probably most of you, I have a background in the arts, but the administrative side of it never really occurred to me until I had been living in my area for a while and realized what a need there was for the type of facility that we offer. And I knew a lot of really awesome teachers, but I also knew that, how do I say it? Artists are not necessarily the greatest at administrating things. And I knew that I could shocker, right? I knew that I could put a spreadsheet together, and I thought I could keep it on the rails. And so I knew if I could get all of those teachers in the right place, we could do some really cool stuff together. So I kind of fell into it too, and sort of it was the right place, right time for me as well. But then as I got into it, I discovered that I love the business side of it, and I love that sort of arts administration part, which has led me to other opportunities as far as consulting with other brands and other businesses to support other leaders. So that's kind of my backstory.
I love that. You saw a need and thought, if I build it, they will come. I like it. All right, I'm going to jump down to the dynamic duo. We've got Kim and Lakin. Tell us a little bit about your path to leadership.
I'll go. So I'm Kim Jumper. I am the IT manager at Jackrabbit. Basically, same as Melanie and Irina. I saw a need and a want to help people, and the way that I got into IT as well is basically the lack of females in IT. I'm one of those people that I just think I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove everybody that I can do it. And that's basically, that's how it started about 23 years ago. And that's where I'm at with helping people and just being able to do what other people think I might not be able to do.
I love it. A competitive streak. We see it here all the time. We thrive on it. Lakin, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Lakin Ford. I am the support team manager at Jackrabbit, and so Irina is actually my manager. And so, when I first started, there was a lead in place, but not really a manager. And so Irina saw that potential in me before I saw it in myself. So I tried it out for a little bit, and then I just fell in love with the team and leading them and just their passion for doing their best work every day. And so I decided I never wanted to leave. So
we are grateful for that. Patty, how about you?
Hi guys, Patty Comera from Dyer, Indiana. I have a gym school named Patty's All-American, gymnastics, dance, swim, ninja, educational preschool called Gym and Learn. And I have a second business called Tumble Bear Connection. And that's where I began speaking at a national level in 1981. And I started putting my lectures on videotape in 1986 and selling them. And so I do that as well. I think a leader is sometimes born. I think a lot of us have the same type of personalities that get up and go, that want to help people. And I've always wanted to be the committee chairman, the pitcher of the team, the cheerleading captain, the president of the club, And I think in the industry, what happens is, first of all, I've been in business 52 years. So if nothing else, I'm the oldest one. So people look up to me because, good Lord, she's so old, she has to know the answers.
Most experienced, Patty.
Yeah, so that's the reason. But anyway, so yeah, all of us want to help, and certainly that's what I wanted to do.
Sheesh, I got exhausted just hearing what you've done and what you do on a daily basis. I thought, is that all, Patty? Is that all we're doing all day long? All right, let's go down. Tracy Egan, tell us a little about you and your path to leadership.
Hey everybody, I'm Tracy Egan. I'm the director of product here at Jackrabbit, and I've been in technology for my whole career, 25 years. And there weren't a lot of women leaders in technology. It's always been a little bit more of a male-dominated space, although that's changing rapidly. But I'll just say, what inspired me to be a leader, it was sort of a natural progression. I think the more you take on, the more you're allowed to take on. And I don't think I've ever been hired into a position that I hadn't already been doing a lot of the work for. So I just think that's always been the key for me, is take on as much as you can, do it, jump in, don't be afraid. And that has served me well. And it gives you a ton of opportunity, because that's what people are looking for, is just someone who can jump in and do it.
Yep, I agree. That's a common theme I'm hearing. We're all asking, what else? What's next? What more can we do? And that's how we get here. All right, Leslie Tyler, you've got an interesting path to leadership. Tell us about you.
Leslie Tyler from Iowa. I am the sales development rep here at Jackrabbit Technologies, and I believe I've been training my entire life for this position. I started dance studio when I was 20 because I wanted to have kids feel the energy and the passion that I felt. So I shared that. And yes, as an artist, business sense did not come soon. That came much later. Got a lot of business sense from Patty Comera. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I believe the way that I became a leader is kind of twofold. One, a lady in the 70s wanting to get a loan for a dance studio. Banks pretty much just went, that's interesting. So I adopted the outlook of underestimate me. That'll be fun. And away I went. And I just kept trying. We're in a small town, so I wanted to educate my students not only on dance but on life. I wanted to give them experiences that maybe they wouldn't have, and I wanted to empower them. And I believe that all of that has formed my whole journey. And the 4 years I've been here at Jackrabbit, it's the same thing. When I'm working with a new client, I want to educate them, I want to give them a good experience, and I want to empower them for success.
I love it. I like that you've been able to translate that from being a dance studio owner over into your current role. And I think, you're right, Patty. Some leaders are born and we can transition no matter what role we're in. We're going to look for a way to be a leader. All right. Well, now that we've gotten to know all of you, let's jump in. I've got a couple of questions and I'm just going to throw them out there and maybe assign them on the fly to you. But the first one up, I thought maybe I'd ask Melanie and Shasta. Is there anybody specifically, any mentor or, celebrity or whoever it might be, but anybody that specifically inspired you to be a leader? And what was it about that person, if there was one?
Shasta, do you want to go first? Or I can go. Whatever.
Sure. Thanks, Melanie. So I love this question because my answer is so very cliche, but the women that have inspired me most are the women in my family, specifically my mom, my maternal aunt, and my mom's mother, my grandma. My father passed away when I was very young, almost 2 years old. And then my mother had this battle with breast cancer, and she passed away when I was 9 years old. And the way that my family kind of gelled together and helped say, you can do whatever you want, there is nothing unachievable. In the midst of this trauma, as I get older in life, I look back and I just think that's truly exceptional, like exceptional circumstances, but also cultivating this really desire that anything is possible. And I'm so appreciative today for that. And I grew up in a small town in Eastern Tennessee, right? There weren't women like shattering glass ceilings all around, but in this home environment that I lived in, it was anything that you dream, you can achieve. And I really believe that this creativity, my imagination, all of that was cultivated. And it set me on a really great path into the world. And, we'll often survey girls and who inspired them the most. And so many say, their family at home. And I do think it's cliche, but it's so true and it's so powerful. And as a mom now, you carry that weight in your role of wanting to pass that inspiration to your children as well. And I think in extracurriculars, we think about that in our clients too. We want to make sure that we're giving them that love that we received as we were growing up and developing and finding our passion and our leadership.
I love that. It does start really close to home, and you don't have to look very far to find a good mentor or inspiration. How about you, Melanie?
Wow, Shasta. Like I am just so impressed with you that you took those really horrible experiences, being honest, lack of better terms, right? And turning that into like your that thing that built you up is just so impressive. So, wow. And I don't feel like I can really quite follow you up with that. Mine is a little bit more, I think back to my very first accounting job, and there was one woman in particular who had, was at a certain level, and she so impressed me. And I thought, like, she was kicking some butt, right? She had some very hard edges to her, and I think it was because of the time that it was, and it wasn't normal for a woman to be in that position. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take the parts of that call to me and try to do that in my own career. So I remember her a lot. And then once I got to Jackrabbit, and even before that, I heard about a particular woman named Patty Kimura, and I learned about her. And like, even before I got to meet her for the first time, I was so inspired by everything that I had seen about you, Patty. And then once I got to meet you and your whole group, there's like this whole group, the Magnificent Seven, right? These women leaders, especially in gymnastics, and getting to meet them in person and form some relationships. They were so open and welcoming and warm. And I was like, that is it. Like, that's that magic combination of being strong to do what you need to do, but also have that softness and that, what is the word I'm looking for? Like to encourage other women, right? And it just like drew me in, and I was like, oh, I love this. I want to be a part of, I want to do that for others. Thank you. But the interesting part, and I promise I'm almost done, is it's just not in gymnastics, right? It's in dance, it's in swim. Of course, the women, their names and faces are different, but their qualities are similar. And that is why I love like this whole industry, because we are women and we can use that, our femininity to help us with that leadership.
That's really powerful. Very insightful. You're right. I mean, there's so many powerful and strong and inspiring women in our client group at, reaching out and asking people to join this panel. It was just, the list was just endless of inspiring women. So we feel really fortunate for that. I'm interested, Tracy and Ashley, you kind of both mentioned, the makeup or the climate of the industries you're in. So if you guys could describe your leadership style or how you feel like you lead, and if you think it differs at all from your male counterparts, I think that's an interesting observation I think you guys could speak to a little bit.
You want me to go first?
Sure, go for it, Ashley.
All right. So, I think I was thinking about this a little bit, and I don't know that I necessarily look at leadership styles as like a male leader or a female leader, because I've worked with a lot of really kind and caring male leaders. And then I've also worked with, maybe that's more traditionally a female style. And I've also worked with women who perhaps had more of a typically, male, more aggressive style. So, I think it's kind of taking the good and bad from both sides and, navigating your own way with what fits inherently with you as a person and helps you to be really genuine. I think really early on in my career, I resonated with, I don't know if it's a quote, but that idea of like a rising tide lifts all boats. And that, especially as a female, you're not more powerful because you're above people, but because you lift up the people around you. And so, I've always felt really strongly about, celebrating wins of the team very publicly, but then also when there's constructive criticism, to handle that in a more private setting, because I know that it puts people on guard, if they're perhaps reproached in front of their team. I feel very strongly about not waiting to share feedback with people. I always tell my team, you don't have to worry that I'm like privately stewing over something that you did a week ago. If I've got an issue, I'm going to approach it with you. There's not going to be big surprises, because I've been the victim of, 6 months down the road, you hear about something that you did back in January and you're like, but it's the summertime. Like, why didn't you just tell me then? So I kind of committed to myself as a leader that I was always going to make sure my team knew where they stood with me, which I think perhaps is a little bit more of a male trait in some ways. So kind of a hard answer, but that's where my stance is there.
No, I think that's great. I love the idea of addressing or having that conversation early, because I think, I never thought about it, but I think we've all been victims of 7 months down the line, somebody, referencing an issue or, something that happened, good or bad. And you're like, I don't even really remember that. I can't speak to it. So wise advice. How about you, Tracy?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Ashley. I agree. It's not necessarily, male or female. It's different leaders can be great regardless. But, just as a leader myself, I find that I have to go into every conversation and every interaction knowing I'm going to learn something and not assuming I have all the answers. Being willing to hire people that are smarter than me and have a lot to bring to the table that are different than me. I'm always willing to learn from people on my team or across different teams. And I try really to listen, to understand, and not always just to respond, which can be hard because sometimes you're like, you got to be decisive. You got to make decisions. We got to move forward. I'm always like, go, go, go. How about now? Like my team's always joking that I always say like, well, how about now? Like not tomorrow, not next week. Let's just do it now. But, I just find that if you give people safety and they're not afraid to fail, and this is something that's tough, right? Like, to be able to articulate that and then also live that with your team, that it's okay to fail. Let's just learn from it and move on and not point fingers. I mean, I think that's huge. And then just as far as, differences with male counterparts, again, I've been fortunate to work with some great, male leaders as well as female leaders. But I do find that, women, they work differently. They do lead differently at times. There's a difference in our empathy and in our approach. I think sometimes the empathy can come across as weakness or as being emotional. But I do think women, they lead by bringing people along, by showing vulnerability and just allowing other people to shine. And I think that's the key, regardless of male versus female, that, you've got to really support your team. And if they feel like you're giving the credit where the credit's due, I mean, that's leadership right there. So very important.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Leslie and Lakin, I'm interested to know what factors you feel like impact a woman's ability to lead. Anything specifically that stands out to you that isn't, an influence or a factor in how we lead?
That's a good question. No, I think there's a lot of really great ones, right? Like we do have a little more of that natural empathy. I know I've had to work on that a lot with my team, is that moment of pausing before taking action, and feeling where they are. So I actually lead, we're going on 17 women, so it is all women and we're all working together every day. And so just that constant encouragement of we got to have that moment of pause right before we react, because we all have emotions, we all have things going on that influence us, but that doesn't mean that's what that person intended or what was supposed to happen. And so that moment of pause is huge. I think an area where I struggle is the decision making when there are emotions involved, and not necessarily mine, but my team's. Like I don't ever want to upset them. And so making that decision with taking them into consideration, but also the best thing for the team and the company, even if they disagree, navigating that I think has been and can be a struggle for sure.
Oh, you're speaking right to my heart. I feel like I struggle too in taking the personal out. It's not personal, it's professional, it's a business decision, it's the greater good. It's so hard for me to separate the personal element out of that. Sometimes I can't help it. So yeah, wow, Lakin, that really right to the gut today. Leslie, how about you? Do you feel like there's specific factors that, influence our ability to lead as women?
I think it's all internal and not external, because I believe external is a situation. And if I have a brick wall in front of me, I just have to figure out how to go around it. So it's just an internal, I'm going to face it and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to cry privately, and then I'm going to go on.
For me, it's queso. I'm going to drown in a bowl of queso. And then we're going to get over it. We're going to get over it after this bowl of queso.
We're going to get over it. We're going to expand our vision. We're going to do education if we need to figure out, okay, so this is in my way. Am I taking a different path, or am I just going around and continuing my path?
Yeah, I agree. I think a long time ago, I heard, changing your mindset to there's a brick wall in my way, and instead going, there's a brick wall in my way, but here's how I'm going to get around it. Here's what we can do differently. So you're right. Internal versus external.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ashley, Kim, what do you guys think the benefits are to having women in leadership? Kim, I think you mentioned, there's not a lot of women in IT. What do you think the benefits of having women in IT is?
So part of it is that we have soft skills. We like to encourage, we like to motivate. I'm not saying men don't, but that's just, my experience as a woman. Inspire, communicate. I do feel sometimes I think I over communicate, but we like to communicate. And then different outlooks, perspectives. Women wear many hats. We're very used to wearing many hats. And so when it comes to IT, in my experience, I am a multitasker. I can do a lot of things at once, and I feel like I can do it pretty well. And that is what it takes. You can never be like, sorry, I can't help you. I'm doing this right now. You cannot do that. And so I think as a woman, just innately, the innate ability of being able to wear many hats, that's huge for IT right there.
Multitasking. I never thought about that as an important leadership skill, but I think you're so right. I mean, you have so many hats on, you're juggling a million things at one time. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. That's really important. Ashley, how about you in your role and in with British Swim and with the franchise organization? What do you feel like the benefits of having people like yourself and other women in leadership are?
Sure. So, I mean, a lot of our owners are females. So I think that there's, if they see themselves and then they see somebody that they can perhaps connect with in a leadership role, I think that helps. I think probably not unique to me on this call, but probably the case with a lot of these people, a lot of our decision makers on, someone deciding to take swim lessons, it's a lot of females. And so from that perspective, and then I'm a mom, I've got 3 kids who are, sit squarely in our target demographic, I can identify really well versus, if we had I'm not going to stereotype somebody who didn't fit that mold, perhaps they wouldn't be able to understand why customers have certain feedback or things like that. I think across any industry, it's just silly if you have everybody that looks the same gender, same skin, same everything, in the world, because that's not what customers look like. It's not the people we interact with. So, the more that we can look like the people that we're serving, the better we're going to be able to understand different perspectives and address them in a way that's sensitive and appropriate, I think.
Yeah. I think that's it. I'm going to throw kind of a curveball in because you got me thinking about, before I came to Jackrabbit, I was in the childcare industry, and that is a very female-dominated industry, right? And I have to imagine that some of us on this call experience that too. So thinking about the flip side of it, when you've got a female-dominated industry, Shasta, Leanne, Patty, do you feel like recruiting male coaches, male teachers, there's humongous benefits to having them around our students and being another source of inspiration and coaching. So how do you guys approach that? Do you feel like we're moving forward and it's not as difficult as it used to be? And I know that's a curveball, but it just got me thinking when Ashley said that.
Well, we have a team, and right now, currently, we only have one guy on our team of about 14 of us. And we keep saying we're going to have band T-shirts made because we call him Slade and we're the Hens. And we say that's our band name because he's such a brave soul to deal with all of us all the time. And especially, as artistic as my team is, it is tricky for us to recruit male teachers into our program. It's been consistently tricky. It takes a brave soul to come in and work with a whole team of women all the time, and it takes a special temperament. So yeah, I do find it tricky to recruit, but I also find it really, really valuable, especially in the sort of arena that I work in as far as theater. Because we do have a lot of boys in our program. It's majority girls, but we have a really solid presence of boys, and I want them to be able to have those adult figures to look up to in the arts. So it's an ongoing thing for us because I do think it's really important, but it is really tricky.
Yeah, I had to imagine that. We've been talking about how important it is to be a female leader, but I just am curious now about the female leader and leading males in our industry, because I think like we're saying, it's an important role for our kids. So Patty, Shasta, do you guys have any experience?
You know what, Emily, I want to say something. We have 47 employees and they're all women. Okay.
Whoa, I didn't realize that.
And my husband goes, if anything happens to you, I'm getting rid of everybody. I'm hiring men. And because it's a lot of drama, 47 women. But I will tell you the benefit of being a female leader to a female group is if I were male, I wouldn't be able to do those hugs that I do every day and all those cards I send. And, I do a lot of, I don't want to say buttering up because that's not it at all. Appreciation to this staff, because the staff does so much and I want to show the appreciation. So I do a lot of cards, and, I'll get up behind a secretary and I'll start doing a back massage to her, and her shoulders and stuff. Well, if you were a guy, you couldn't do that, so there's a little bit of benefit there. And, I think when a woman's going through something in their life, maybe a divorce or a death of a parent or something, their heart is just broken in half. And that's when it's raw. And that's when you can really show them and they feel the love that you have for them. So that's an opportunity. And I don't mean to put that in a bad spot, but I want to say that as women, we can do that easier than if it was a male leader. Do you know what I'm saying? I just feel it's easier to do that. And we should take that opportunity to do that. And when you feel really passionate about something, I've been in meetings with men, like board meetings for, zoning board meetings or something. And I started to cry because I've been so frustrated. And you don't want them to show you don't want to show your weakness. So what you do is, if you cry in a meeting or with all women, whatever, is you put your fist down and you say, I am crying because I feel passionate about this. And this means so much to me. And then they go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's a difference, could you see a man doing that? But I think it's very real for a woman to show and express really what's going on in their heart as well.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And I love that, Patty. And I have something to piggyback on that. One, in terms of recruitment and hiring, I just want excellent people, right? I want genders, ages. I have, there can be a coachable 18 or 19-year-old that can be just as, a positive contribution to the organization as someone with much more wisdom and experience. So I'm looking for all voices. I like the challengers to a certain degree because they make us think more of how we should be doing things. And like Patty was saying, with that conflict and with that drive for excellence, I think back to a time that I was directing a theater show in our local community, and there were some things going wrong with the tech piece. So I went to the managing director of the theater and shared my concerns. And the person was a male that was a managing director, looked at me and said, you wouldn't be doing this if you weren't so emotional about your personal life.
Wow.
And that would never be said to a man. And so I think a message that's really important for all of the women in the world is that determination should never be confused as being difficult. Like, it is okay to be determined and it's okay to stand for excellence. And in our leadership positions, we have the power to do that with our clients, with our staff, with our students. And I'm just so inspired by everyone that's on this call. And I do think the more we can say it out loud, speak up, stand for excellence, represent that, and then share those stories, that's where we're really going to start to see some strong movement of equality.
Oh, I love that. And I like that. Determination is not difficult. Like, staple that to my forehead. All right. So getting back to the questions that we kind of had discussed and at hand, Irina, Tracy, I've watched you groom and promote really great women leaders into the seats they're in. Lincoln mentioned that earlier today. So from your perspective, how do you go about encouraging the women around you, the women on your teams, to step up and consider leadership roles or leadership paths for their career?
Do you want me to go first, Trace?
Go for it.
So I've been with Jackrabbit for, almost 15 years now. And, I started in this company with Mark and Mike, who were extremely supportive of me in my role and what we had to accomplish and what we wanted to accomplish for our customers. And, a lot of that in terms of my department is nurturance and, making sure that everybody that comes to Jackrabbit feels like they are being heard, that they are being represented, that they are being nurtured and supported. And so for me to develop leaders within my team, I can use Leanne as an example, and she's going to hate me for that. But, Leanne is a much softer personality than mine, but Leanne is just equally determined as I am. And so my instinct was, oh, wow, can a soft, quiet person be a leader? Well, heck yeah, they can be, because I'll tell you what, they can, knock the socks off of it. So understanding, I think, in people what their power and their perspective are is extremely important. People don't have to be mini robots. They don't have to be you. And so looking at everybody's qualities and understanding that they're different and that makes them equally powerful, I think, is just critical.
Totally
Gosh,
agree.
it took me too long to figure out that people did not have to do it exactly the way that I did it the whole time.
This is Irina Jones here. I know this. It took me a little while, but
Gosh, all right, that's not unique to me then. Tracy, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Irina. And I also think too that a lot of times, I notice this a lot where people think that to become a leader, they have to manage people. And what I try to instill in my team or in people that I work with or mentor is that showing leadership and being a good leader does not necessarily mean that you're actually managing people. So there's a lot of traits that you exemplify as a leader. And when I see those in people, that's where, I try to foster that, just strong, driven, someone who's understanding, someone who's always looking to improve, who's humble. So just really trying to, look for that personality trait, because I think when you see that in someone, yes, eventually they could go on to manage a team. But really just looking for those attributes, because that to me is like rare. And also when you find it, those people that have that and are driven at the same time, get out of their way, because they can do anything.
Gosh, yeah, I think that's, the idea that you don't have to be a manager of people or a coach of people to be a leader in your organization or a leader in your industry. I feel like we learned that when we were kids, right? Be a leader, not a follower. And somehow when we started jumping into career paths, we imagined if I'm going to be a leader or a top leader, I've got to have a team of 50 under me. But we've watched so many women, step up into leadership roles or inspirational roles that don't manage people, don't coach people. And I think they're just as, big of an impact on our company and our clients and the industry. So I'm glad we're having that conversation and kind of breaking that down a little, because I think it's a misconception that you got to be a people manager to be a leader.
A leader.
Yep. All right. I keep thinking back to the original introduction, so I have to ask Patty this question, but how do you balance, or how does a female leader or woman in this industry balance having a career, having a personal life, having passions? Like, is there even a thing as balance? Because we've talked about how good we are at wearing multiple hats. And, so I know that a lot of women leaders and a lot of women around me feel like they cannot do it all, and they fall down in one area of their life when another area starts, going well. So I got to imagine you've got some insight here.
You know what? When I listen to like Oprah and Diane Sawyer, Robin Roberts, they didn't have children. They said that they chose their career instead of having children and more of a family life. But I think you can have both. I really do. And here's a few concrete ideas for maybe the listeners. I think you should absolutely, as the leader of your company, have communication on how you are going to communicate and they communicate to you. In other words, we need a system. Just like you're talking about managers. I used to call it school age manager, preschool manager. Now I call it department leaders. They're department leaders. So even, what Tracy was saying, I love that, Tracy, because really, you manage systems, but we lead people. And so when you are a leader, you need to make sure that when you walk in that door at home at night, that you have some rules set up, a system as to how can they communicate with you. So our rule is that you email first, you text then, and then you phone call. And it goes, I'm the CEO and president, then I have senior vice presidents, and then there are department leaders. So they're to go to their department leaders first with any concerns or anything whatsoever. Then they go to the senior vice presidents. And if that's not satisfactory, then they're always welcome to come to me. And they know that. I was on vacation just 2 weeks ago, and I get an email that says, I'm ready to quit. Here's one of my employees. She's ready to quit. She didn't know I was on vacation. I called her and everything. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Well, if you're ready to quit, I want to talk to you, but the thing is to make sure you have that set in stone, kind of like how you're going to do that. When you hire someone, you train them, and then you want to inspect what you expect. And I think, the balance of it in your life is if you're developing people in your company that are going to be leaders, then you can step back. The fault of many early leaders are they think they have to do everything themselves, as we probably all did. You were the one that was writing down, who's taking off, who's getting subs, you're doing payroll, you're cleaning the toilets, you're doing everything. But as soon as you possibly can, you've got to get out of that. So you have to get over, and I think it was Kim who said it, or maybe Emily, we're talking about that you had to get over the whole thing that somebody can't do it as good as you. The key to it is bring people in your playpen that have that excel at the attributes that you don't, first of all. So if you're not good at bookkeeping, get out of that. If you're not a good people manager, get somebody. I love middle management. That is the key to everything is, you get out of, don't call me for subs, you've got that lined up there. But I get to walk in my gym and I don't have to be the one that's telling them you parked in the wrong place. You're not wearing the right uniform, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to say that because I have not managers, but senior vice presidents and department leaders that do that. So I get to walk in, make cookies. I made cookies. I bring in and get everybody a hug. So I'm like the champion at my company because I've got people that are doing that. So you need to layer that. But what that does is allow you to have liberty in your life. It gives you financial freedom because you're doing such a great job because people can do better than you. They really can. And you've got the freedom to be with your family, but don't allow yourself to miss that soccer game. I want to say to young people, I have so many people that I consult with. They come to me and talk to me and they're like crying and they're saying, I haven't taken a check for 5 years and I'm at the gym 7 days a week. And no, figure it out, but they're doing things like I have 25,000 square feet and 300 students. Well, you're not going to make bills that way. Cut it the other way. I only have 6,300 square feet, 6,300 square feet. Now about 8,000 or so with a swimming pool and everything, and 1,500 students and 47 employees. I mean, you can do it in a much smaller, so your debt is going to be much lower. That gives you the ability to not be there all the time because you can hire good people. So to be a success in business is staff, facility, and curriculum. You've got to figure out in our industry and dance and swim and everything, who does it? That's your staff. Facility, where you're doing it, and curriculum is what you're doing. And if you can get that and get that organized and get systems in place, then that gives you that balance to be home with your husband, your children, whatever. But if there's anything I can say, regret is horrible. When your kids leave, it's gone. They're gone. My kids, I've been an empty nester since 1998. My 2 kids have been gone that long. And I think back in those years that, and I went, I don't believe I got to go to a basketball game. I got to go to this choir concert. Do it. If I could say one thing to younger people is don't let that time go. Make sure you spend the time and get that balance so that you can be there with your family.
Oh, gosh, that's so powerful. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of us need to hear it. I knew there was a way. I knew you would have the answer if anyone did. So. You know
what? Wait, let me say one more thing because I did forget this. Paul Pearsall has a book called The Pleasure Principle. And he says, when you're in a position like that, use the word no. It's a powerful no because you have a bigger, powerful yes, your family. So when someone asks you to speak at a chamber meeting or to come and do something or to lead the meeting, when you say no, you have a more powerful yes, and that's your family. So I thought that was a really good way to look at it.
Wow, I love that. I gotta ask, Patty, you said instead of managers or center directors, you called them senior vice presidents, right?
Yeah. I'm with it, and then I've got 2 senior vice presidents, one of operations, which is more the office and schedules and things like that, and one of sales, which is in charge of all the things that we do, tuition-based classes, ninja, dance, gymnastics, preschool, etc.
Was that title choice intentional? I mean, we don't hear those titles very often in our industries. Did you do that intentionally?
Yes, I wanted them to understand that, they're at the top, and I think titles do mean something to some people. It doesn't to others, but some people, they rise to the title. They rise to that. And if you've ever looked at Oprah magazine, take that first page out of Oprah magazine. There are 500 titles. Senior vice president to the assistant, to the assistant, to the senior vice, there's 8 million different titles. And I think it's important to do that when you're layering in your company.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had to ask because I figured we didn't accidentally come up with that. And you're right. Some people do rise to the title and some people it doesn't matter to, but I think that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Leslie and Leanne, how do you guys stay grounded, take care of yourself? What does self-care look like for the 2 of you?
putzing around the house and cooking.
Okay.
Being in nature, yoga, and Reiki. And then
yoga.
having a good book. I like to be reading 2 books at once. One that's just silly fun that my brain doesn't have to think, like an adventure book. And then the other one that I'm reading at the moment is the biomedical field around the body. I want to understand. I know. Who would have thought that a lady who knows the color of rhinestones would say biomedical field? But biomedical field is the energy we all have around us, which in turn is important to all of our businesses. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
So Leslie likes a little bit of quiet time. Leanne, how about you?
The secret for me, and I learned this, I think the hard way during all of the COVID stuff. I'm sure that like many of you, I was working 2 bazillion hours trying to keep everything afloat and keep my kids okay and, all of the things. And I realized actually earlier this year, I realized how much I had been neglecting my own self-care. And I realized that what I have to do is put it on the calendar. So I love dance classes at my gym. So I put them on my calendar every single week. I block the time off. And that is the secret for me. Because if I don't, I'll fill the time with something else. I'm involved with a lot of things in our community, civic organizations and nonprofit boards. And I love all of that work, but I'm really, really diligent about putting that time on the calendar. And then, like Leslie said, I try to have a book near me all the time because, and I've discovered that I'm no good at e-readers. I have to have a dead tree book in my hands. And that I can usually get myself to sort of check out. I'm very type A, so I always have a list. I always have something that I'm, passionately working on, or there's always another thing I could be doing. And I have to really discipline myself to just put it all down and be where my feet are.
Ooh, I like that. Be where my feet are. Wow. Okay. Well, as we sign off, I want all of you to share with us, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders? So we will sign off. We'll start in the same order. Melanie, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders?
Just believe in your dreams and know you can make it happen. Be confident.
Be confident. Shasta, how about you? What's your advice for the next generation?
My advice would be not to hesitate to share your story. So often we get entranced with the stories of the people around us and think that's what the world is expecting to see in order to be labeled successful. But your story is actually your success. And the sooner that you kind of sit in the comfort of that, the faster you're going to get towards your vision and to your happy place, right? And kind of just piggybacking on Patty when she was talking about these systems, one thing that I'm having to be really mindful of in my leadership is we have been in this period of crisis where we have had to do more, like Leanne was saying. So now it's time to make sure that we are reverting back and that we're getting back into that place that we used to be. And I think that's really exciting and hopeful and optimistic. And there's even more opportunity for our industries to rise to the occasion and lead even more. Because man, we did it during this crisis. And I just can't wait to see what happens as that kind of falls to the wayside. I really am so impressed with everyone and think great things are in our future.
Agreed. I think at least the Jackrabbit people, we can say we watched our industry and our clients. And I mean, one Thursday afternoon, we were like, it's going to be fine. Everybody don't worry. We're just going to show up on Monday, business as usual. And, Monday, everything changed that following Monday. But I don't know. I don't want to speak for the rest of the Jackrabbit people, but we were a little worried about how you guys would respond and react. And the way that this industry didn't miss a beat, just kept rolling, stayed resilient. It was just breathtaking to watch and it's just very inspiring. So,
and part of that, losing the students, losing the revenue, that's all part of our stories, but that's not something that has to be a negative. That's a platform from which we will rise and we're going to be even bigger and greater and better than we were before that. So I think that's so important for our leadership is to applaud ourselves for what we accomplished, instead of kind of sitting in the parts that really weren't fun.
Yeah, agreed. Leanne, how about you? What's your advice for the next generation of leaders?
I would totally piggyback on what Shasta said. I think knowing, not being afraid to share your own story, and then additionally knowing yourself really well. So understanding how your past, your story, your experiences play into the type of leader that you are, because we all have our own superpowers and they come from the life that we've led and the experiences that we've had. And so I always encourage young leaders to really do their own research into themselves and understanding themselves, whether that's through, personality type things or just, I don't know, therapy, whatever works for you. But to get to know yourself, and then also never passing up the opportunity to learn something about your team, learn something about your industry. I think that learning is the secret, and also collaboration. So that time of, events like this, opportunities like this, where we can share things. I mean, I've taken notes the whole time we've been talking today of other things that these smart women have said that I think, yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to use that. So never passing up those types of opportunities, because there's always something to learn about yourself or about our industry and what we do.
Absolutely. Ask lots of questions. That's what my parents told me every day. Sorry, everybody on Jackrabbit. I still do it. Kim, Lincoln, what's your advice for the next generation of female leaders?
Yeah, I'm super similar to Leanne. I was going to say, do what it takes to show up fully and authentically. And, I think therapy for me is a big part of that. I love me some therapy. So yeah, it's just, putting in the work to know yourself, know your strengths, but also know your weaknesses and where you struggle, so that to slow down and stop for a minute when you have to. And then, when you don't have answers, being comfortable with that unknown, or with just sitting with a hurting or struggling employee or whatever it is, but just striving to be authentically present as much as possible.
How about you, Kim?
Basically, same exact thing is I've never been one to act like I know something when I don't know it. I'm not going to be embarrassed to be like, I don't know that, because I want to learn it. I'm also not can you do that for me? I want to do it. Teach me. I want to learn it. I want to do it. Yeah, same exact thing that, piggybacking on everybody else. I mean, don't be afraid if you don't know something. Ask questions. I'm kind of an island when it comes to Jackrabbit, in my position, but I think it's awesome because, I can reach out to anybody and they can help me, whether it's with my work or with my personality, just, reaching out to people and the communication. And one other final thing I wanted to piggyback on with Tracy Egan and Irina of, not everybody does things like me. That is like my nemesis. But one thing I wanted to share that I absolutely have always loved is a quote from Steve Jobs. And I think that Jackrabbit exemplifies this. He said, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do.
Amen. Amen. I love that. Hire smart people and get out of the way as fast as you can, right? All right, Patty, you've got some wisdom for us. What is it?
When you're talking about, for the future, education, I'm an education junkie. I'm like Leslie. I usually read 2 books, a business book, and I love historical novels. So when I was with Mark Mahoney, Miss Jackrabbit People, Friday with a Zoom meeting, and he had recommended this book. And so I already got it. I got it like that afternoon. You know how you can go on Amazon and it's like delivered by 2:00, you know what I mean? So anyway, because we were talking about people systems and people recognition and that type of thing. So education, get a mentor. Number 2 would be get a mentor. Find somebody in life that and I don't necessarily mean in life, is if you're looking for leadership qualities in your industry, then go to somebody in your industry. I remember in 1979, I was at a national conference and this woman named Judy Shaw was speaking. And I was just like this the whole time. I was just like that, writing a million notes, just my mouth open. I ran up to her at the end. She was walking out and she's got all her books and everything. And I'm walking out and I said, can I call you sometime? You're just so smart. Is it all right? And I just was like, blah, 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 over her. I was just like, oh my God, she's so smart. And so, you know, I used her as a mentor, I guess, a little bit that way. Another thing I think is intuition. You know, listen to your gut. How many times have we started to hire someone, and you people that own the businesses, and you know, you think you shouldn't hire them and you went ahead and did it anyway because you got open classes.
Yep.
And then you think, what was I thinking? You know, listen to your gut, you know, use that muscle of intuition and just listen to it, because that's an important thing for women. I think we're very, very good at that. You know, Dave Ramsey says, when you hire people, he says, you know the crazies, keep the crazies out of the building.
Yeah, you do know them. You know them when you see them.
Yeah, he says, keep the crazies out of the building. And lastly, network. I would love to get closer to the women on this staff, on this group right now. Melanie had brought it up. We have a group of 7 women, and actually it's grown to 9 now, grown to 9. We call ourselves the Mag 7 or Mag 9, and we're kind of the biggest gym school owners in the country as far as females, but we go out to dinner at every major conference. We vacation together. We've been, you know, Punta Cana, we've been to Nantucket, we've been all these different vacations together, and we just sit there and you live the same life as these people. So it's just so easy to be friends with them. And so network, don't be afraid to ask people. And yeah, those are some ideas I think that really young people should latch on to.
I love it. Build your tribe and then head to Punta Cana with them when you can.
That's right.
That's great advice. Irina Jones, what's your advice?
Oh, you know, and this is one that I wish somebody had drilled into me, but you learn the hard way. So I would say, be humble. Don't try to be somebody or something that you are not. And think before you speak. Is it true? Is it helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind? And I know this is coming out of my mouth. I never said. But, you know, as women, I think there are, what's the word? Impressions of how we should be or what the expectations are. And we don't have to follow those. But what we do have to be is authentic within, which is something that I think some others said earlier. So
I love that. Ashley.
Yeah, I think taking a little bit of a different spin, I'm somewhat passionate about trying to prove that you can be both a good leader and grow in your career and actually be a good parent at the same time. And those two are not mutually exclusive. And I think I think, Patty, it's what you said earlier. It's like, you don't have to give up one to have the other. And I think it takes a little bit of challenging kind of that delineation between a work-life balance. I mean, be relatively unapologetic about some of the things that you just naturally have to do during the day, whether it's, you know, hopping out to go to a preschool performance or dentist appointments, but also recognizing that, you know, there's a little bit of a trade-off. You know, I don't feel terrible if I have to take a call in an evening or open my computer for a little bit, because I think it's helpful for my boys to see like, oh, wow, she does actually have something outside of these 4 walls. But then I also have, you know, some no-go times, and my team knows like, hey, unless it's an emergency between, you know, 5:30 and 8:30, you're not going to hear from me. But if it is an emergency, kind of text me. Here's the ways to get in touch with me. So I think setting that up and not apologizing for being a mother is something that a lot of, you know, when you're just starting off and you're like, how am I going to handle this? Knowing that you can do it, but it does take some work.
Oh, I love that. And not apologizing on either side of it, not apologizing for being a mother and not apologizing to your children for being a leader and an inspiration to others. I love the no-go time and that you're transparent about it, that you say, these are the hours, it's no-go time, instead of just letting people assume that it's no-go time. That's really wise. Yeah. Tracy Egan, how about you?
Yeah, I love that too, Ashley. That's awesome. For me, I would just advise to stretch yourself. You have got to step out of your comfort zone. I mean, there's never been a great leader that just sat around and waited for someone to notice them. So fear, lack of confidence in ourselves, those are our biggest limiters. You're going to fail. And guess what? If you fail, you're going to learn the most from that than you'll ever learn from anything else in your life. It means you're learning. So just you've got to put yourself out there, and you're going to be uncomfortable. And the more uncomfortable you are, the more likely it is that you're moving forward. So,
yep. Couldn't agree more. And share those failures, right? Actually, I got that advice from our COO, Darren. He reminded me, like, you could help your team by sharing those big failures with them and what you learned. Don't keep it to yourself. And, you know, that was a big lesson for me. Like I would fail and I would learn, but I'd keep that failure to myself. But I realized when I shared it with my team, oh my gosh, the leaps and bounds that they grew hearing that story and feeling like they could share their fast decisions and big fails. And, you know, I think that's very wise.
Vulnerability is not a bad thing. I agree.
Not at all. All right, Leslie, take us home. What's your advice?
Never quit learning. Never assume that you know it all. There's always somebody out there with a different way that might work good for you. And when you do feel a connection with someone, like you said, trust your intuition. If you see a leader in your industry or in another industry that you want to emanate whatever it is, don't be afraid to go up and ask them, like Patty did, rushing up. And always know that you're always going to be learning.
I love it.
See it as chapters of your life.
Very good. All right. Well, I got to thank the women on this panel for joining us. I learned a tremendous amount today. I'm sure everybody did. When you guys have a chance, panelists, please go read the comments because people were just loving this broadcast and everything we shared. So thank you, everybody that joined us. We'll make sure to share this out with all of our followers, and you can find it on YouTube indefinitely. This is the best way that I can think of to celebrate International Women's Day. So we hope you guys all go out and celebrate the women and the women leaders in your lives too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yay.
Thank you,
everyone.